All right, I see 3 folks in addition to, well, 2 folks, 4 folks. The number keeps climbing. All
We
right.
gotta wait for everyone to join.
Yeah, that's right. We'll give the folks a chance to shuffle into our virtual LinkedIn Live theater here.
And we should remind everybody that we will be checking. Oh, hold on. I was having my LinkedIn Live go.
Can you hear the music?
I can.
Yeah. The host and the hostess with the mostest. Host with the most. All right,
So we'll
looks
give
like
it another minute.
Yeah, we have 13 folks in the LinkedIn Live. That sets a nice tone, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
I gotta fill out my music quiver in our recording studio so we have more to play with. All right, that's a to-do list thing. Okay, I see we got 18 folks in the LinkedIn Live, so the number keeps rising. For you folks that are out there in the LinkedIn Live, I posted a link in the comment section of the event. So if you want to jump into that link, you'll be welcomed with open arms into our Riverside studio. The benefit of doing this is there's no lag. There's a 15-second lag between the recording studio and LinkedIn Live, and so it's a little bit less interactive. Also, you can jump into the chat where you can drop questions in real time. You can also do this in the LinkedIn Live, but it's quite unreliable. So we'll try to monitor both LinkedIn Live as well as the Riverside chat, but we will be paying more attention to the Riverside chat. So if you want to jump in there, jump in there. We're trying to make this an interactive session here. So why don't we get started? We're about 3 after top of the hour, and we have about 23 folks in the LinkedIn Live. So again, folks that are just joining us, check the LinkedIn Live comments, jump into the Riverside studio with us if you'd like to drop in some chat questions. This is going to be an interactive session here. All right, so welcome everyone. My name is Eric, and Michelle is my hostess with the mostest that'll be joining me.
Hello.
This is Recruiter Revealed, and I'll give you a little bit of background on Recruiter Revealed. So Michelle and I are both recruiters. We've been doing this now for more than 10 years. Me 10 years, you 15 plus.
Yeah,
right?
15
And
plus.
so there's a lot of folks out there that are struggling, particularly in tech, and we've noticed this. And we've also noticed that there's quite a bit of maybe misnomers or misunderstandings about recruiting in general and recruiters. And we were just like, if folks just had a little bit more information, or maybe the right information at the right time or the right place, their ability to manage the job search and the interview processes and partnering with recruiters would be 10x more effective. And so that's the whole premise here. We started this series as a way to sort of bring folks up to speed, or at least give them some sense of what recruiting is all about. In many ways, as a job seeker, especially in this environment, you have to be your own recruiter, right? And so we're trying to demystify what it is to be a recruiter, what to expect from a recruiter, what are sort of the black box processes or psychology behind the scenes as a candidate. And so hopefully this will give you an edge as you continue in your job search, or continue as you consider a pivot perhaps in your career. And so this is episode 4, I believe, of our Recruiter Revealed. So if you haven't seen any of the other episodes of the Recruiter Revealed, we do publish this on Spotify, and so you'll be able to get this episode and other episodes on Spotify. Okay, so our guest today is Heike Hiss, and we have a little bit of we don't know if she's going to show up. So we've been in communication in the hours leading up to our pre-scheduled show here today. Again, we're streaming live on LinkedIn Live. Check the comments in the LinkedIn Live event. Heike got pulled into sort of an emergency meeting with an executive finalist candidate to interview him or her, and so I don't know if she'll be able to make it. If she does, she'll make it in the next 10 minutes. If she can't, she won't. And you guys are stuck with Michelle and me. And so
we'll answer questions.
hopefully we can carry the conversation here. Again, Michelle and I have, more than 25 years of collective recruiting experience, both in-house and external recruiting, executive level down to senior level individual contributor. And so there's a lot of questions that we can answer. Obviously, it'll be better if Heike can make it, and everyone out there, cross your fingers that she can. Okay? All right. What am I missing, Michelle?
I think you covered most of it. I was going to just jump straight into the questions that we had, and just want to remind you, you're welcome to add any questions that you guys have in the LinkedIn chat. We are going to be checking it. But as a reminder, sometimes LinkedIn is a little bit laggy. We're also 15 seconds delayed from Riverside to LinkedIn. So, just if for some reason we don't get to it, we will definitely get to it after the show. So just know that we are actively monitoring the chat.
I see 19 people in LinkedIn Live. I see Alina on the Riverside chat. I see 9 folks in the Riverside chat. Oh, there's Heike. Awesome. Heike, you made it.
I did. Yeah, I'm so sorry for being late.
No
but I'm
worries.
Here with headphones. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we hear you loud and clear, so you're perfect. Great timing. We were just warming the audience up. And so, so perfect. Okay, so everyone, this is Heike. She's a senior director of global executive search at Box, which is a publicly traded company, BOX, on the New York Stock Exchange. And they do cloud content management, and they're based in Silicon Valley. Heike started her career in executive search more than 25 years ago, working with companies including Apple, Korn Ferry, Heidrick and Struggles, and Box, and currently Box. And she has experience with both internal and external recruiting. And Heike brings a very unique perspective in the sense that she does a lot of high-level search, obviously executive down to director level, and she brings internal. She brings the perspective of an internal recruiter as well as an external recruiter. And as a reminder for folks that are not familiar with those terms, internal recruiters are recruiters that work within a particular company. So, for example, Box is not a recruiting company. They provide their own products and services, and so she recruits exclusively for Box. And she also has external recruiting experience where she's worked with Korn Ferry, for example, and Korn Ferry services a number of different clients in providing them with the executive search services. So, welcome, Heike. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for the introduction. Hello, everybody. I'm delighted to be here.
We have around 20 folks on the LinkedIn Live, and we have 9 folks here in Riverside. So we're hoping to make this an engaging session here. And let's see. Chris Nelson doesn't see the link. Oh, there you dropped it, Michelle. Perfect.
I already dropped it. Yeah, we're good.
All right, so we'll be taking questions live, but we do have our own questions that we'll be sort of walking you through here, Heike. And just keep in mind, a lot of the folks in the audience are folks that a lot of them are in tech. A lot of them happen to be job seekers. Some may not be job seekers, but I think a lot of them would benefit from your insight in the conversation here as it relates to what is a recruiter? How do they operate? If I'm a job seeker, how can I best partner with a recruiter? What are some of the things that I should know when engaging a recruiter or working with a recruiter if I'm, in a given process with a particular company? So we'll explore a lot of those things. But if you want to introduce yourself or just, say hi to our audience, that would be great.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hi, audience. Hello, everybody. I'm Heike. As Eric mentioned, I'm delighted to be here. Eric and I have actually known each other for a long time. The search world is pretty small, and we're both super connected. So it was delightful to be here. And frankly, I am here to, answer any of your questions. So I'm I want to hear what's important to you and what is on your mind and what I can be helpful with. I don't have an agenda other than being here for you all. I've been at Vox for 10 years, that Eric has mentioned. I still love search. I've done it for a very long time. It's still my passion, and I don't think that will ever stop. And I'm very grateful to be working in this field. That gives me a lot of joy.
Awesome. We actually have a very relevant question here from Haley. There are a lot of folks right now that are considering and actually pursuing a pivot in their careers. And so her question, Haley, is, what is the best way to work with a recruiter when you're trying to switch careers?
Yeah, great question, Haley. And I think it depends a little bit on how big the shift is. If the shift is from one industry to another industry, for instance, you would want to approach that differently as opposed to making a switch from one function to another function. So I'll put that out there as a framework. And then to Eric's point, in a case like this, you would probably want to work with a recruiter who is in a search firm or professional services setting where their goal is that they get to know you very well, and then they work with many clients in different companies, different industries on filling their roles. And then they know you really well, and they know, oh, Haley is interested in making this transition from here to there. So I will keep her in mind as I'm having client conversations over here. In a in-house recruiter, they are typically very focused on filling a particular role in a particular function. So they're really working on behalf of the company and not so much on behalf of you. So that is probably a little bit of a more challenging opportunity or challenging connection to be made, to be honest. And then it comes back to building relationships, right? So much of that is to establish contacts with people in companies that you are interested in. So going through your own network, for instance, and saying, yeah, I'm interested in these five companies. Who do I know there? Even if they're not in the right function that I'm interested in, but I'll reach out to them and start talking to them and get to know them, and, one conversation at a time. So I hope this is helpful. There are two pieces to this. One is an external recruiting firm, and one is an in-house recruiter. And at the end of the day, it all comes back to relationships, though, and having conversations.
Yeah, that's great. And, with respect, Haley, to switching careers, switching careers is depending on how far along in your career, it can be challenging, right? And so if you're further along in your career and you're looking to pivot your career, you have to go through this exercise of figuring out what skills are portable, or how do you port those skills to the needs in the marketplace, right? And one thing that recruiters can be helpful in is sort of helping you kind of validate how your skills may port over or may be needed in a given in a new career. So you can work with recruiters in that sense too. It's a bit of an art too in terms of connecting with recruiters, particularly now. A lot of recruiters are getting inundated with candidates trying to connect with them. So that's a little bit of an art as well. But maybe in that vein, Heiko, what are your thoughts on how could a candidate or a job seeker best connect with a recruiter that's perhaps getting inundated with just a lot of candidates reaching out to them? How could they get a recruiter's attention?
Yeah. It's a great question. And I do want to offer a slightly alternative route, if you will, and talk about connecting with the business, which is often not as inundated, definitely not by recruiting outreach. So back to here's a company I'm really interested in, and here is a business leader that I've either know, or my neighbor knows, or my friend knows, or I met them at a conference or in an airplane. I mean, so many touch points that we have. that you reach out to this business leader and you say, I'm interested in your company. I don't know if you have any open roles here, but I'd love to this is what I do, and I'd love to just learn more about your business. And that often leads to a conversation that then can say, oh, well, we actually have an open role, or we don't have an open role, but why don't I introduce you to my recruiting manager or my head of recruiting, and you can talk about what our current need is. So that's one, I think, can be a very effective way, because business leaders are interested in talking about their business, and they're interested in talking to people who are in the same business as they are. And they frankly also often enjoy mentoring. People who've worked for 20 plus years, and I mean, myself included, we're very passionate about teaching and giving back and mentoring. So that can be a very effective way to get into a company, rather than I found out who the recruiter is and I pinged them, I never heard back from them. Because the work is often, especially at the non-exec level, very transactional, and they're just really busy. They work on a lot of open roles, and they typically don't have the time to engage with someone in more of a career conversation context, because they're busy filling open roles.
And Heike, how many roles would you say most recruiters on average work on? Just to kind of give a context of like, how busy are they?
Yeah. And it depends obviously on the company and the structure. So
Yeah.
Core recruiting or volume recruiting, it is not uncommon for them to work on 15 to 20 open roles at any given time. And then at the executive level, it's often 5, 6, 7, which is a lot, and it keeps them very, very busy. So like I said, there's very little room typically for the career conversation or more the strategic engagement.
Yeah, and each of those open recs that they're working on has its own pipeline, perhaps multiple cohorts of people going through each of those pipelines. So it's a lot for the recruiter to manage. And I think why this is important for the job seeker or candidate out there is to give you some context. So when a recruiter doesn't respond to you perhaps day of to an email that you're sending, at least there's some sense of what's going on or what could be going on the back end. It's not necessarily that the recruiter is ignoring you or trying to ghost you. They just may not have gotten to your email yet, or maybe they don't have an answer for you yet. And so yeah, maybe you could, there's an opportunity to kind of temper your expectations there as a candidate and thereby minimize some potential frustration there. So I have a question from Jeff here, talking about layoffs. What are the best practices for addressing short stints or resume gaps in a resume itself or cover letter, etc.?
Yeah, great question. I do think the perception of that has definitely changed during the pandemic, because a lot of unexpected global things happened, and pattern we used to have weren't as meaningful anymore. And so there are, in almost all cases, there are reasons for it. And I do think the strategy is to be honest. To be honest and candid is always best. And everybody understands that there were circumstances, right? That they come, especially in technology, some of you or most of you are in technology, companies run out of funding. The global economy was contracting. So there are reasons why the stints were short. And it's okay to be honest. It's also okay to be honest if the reason was with you, in the sense that I went there and I realized I did not resonate with this culture. And I wish I'd done more due diligence, or it's really not something I could have known before. But, it's okay to say, I made a mistake and this is not for me. And this is why I left. I think honesty goes a very long way. And it's also there's no shame in being laid off. I mean, I've been laid off. Everybody has laid off. This is part of how business works. And, it's okay. And everybody will understand that. So as long as you talk about it openly and explain the why, it shouldn't be a problem.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Oh yeah, and Jeff, one of the things I would put in is, if there's a way where you're working on projects or things on the side that you can put in, like if you have a 6 month or an 8 month, maybe even a year gap, but you're working on yourself and you're working on something that furthers you in your career, that is really helpful. And sometimes I put that in there. It's not just a complete gap and you were just sitting on the couch and doing nothing. You were doing something productive. And so recruiters, hiring managers look upon that pretty favorably. But if you can't describe what you were doing during those times, and it comes out with a blank, or sometimes people have excuses, then I know that you weren't doing anything with that time. So it depends on the gaps in your resume and what you've done with your time. Leaving, like for short stints, I would also mention not only, hey, I didn't like the environment, but what was it that you did about it? So meaning if, the environment was too cutthroat, that was not the best fit. So I went and looked for another company that was a better fit, that really embraced work-life balance and really supported my personal growth. So you want to talk about things that you have done with, if it just wasn't a fit. Because I do hear a lot of candidates that come in, they're like, oh, I'll ask them about, why'd you leave this third company, three companies before? And they'll just be like, okay, I didn't like my manager. Next question, well, what about your second company? And they'll say, well, I didn't like the environment. Next question, it's like, oh, well, my manager didn't tell me enough about. So if there's enough excuses, I will see a pattern. But if they can explain, what, I realized this was just not the right fit for me, and I really focused on making these changes, that'll go a long way versus just the excuses. So hopefully that helps.
And Jeff, take a little bit of comfort, Jeff, in knowing that there's a lot of folks out there that have been unemployed for 3 months plus. I've seen some as high as like 12 months, particularly in tech. And these are folks with great experience, right? And so it's kind of a strange environment right now. So you're not alone. You're not alone. Let's see. Ben has a question. I've been in contact with a recruiter I met at an expo who recruits for their own company. I was told to get back in contact this month, but they haven't responded to the email. What's the best way to not annoy a recruiter? This kind of
Heike,
goes
if you
back.
want,
Yeah.
If you want to answer that, how would you answer that?
It's such a fine line, Ben. I mean, I totally understand you. And I'm mentoring several people who are in this boat. It's like I interviewed with them 3 days ago, and they said they'd have a decision by Friday, and it's Friday, and I'm, chomping at the bit. And what should I do? And my general advice is to just have a breath and give it a little bit of time and pause. Because, as Eric mentioned earlier, people are usually, especially in this environment where companies thinned out their recruiting teams, people are typically spread really, really thin. So you want to stay top of mind, but you definitely don't want to, you say annoy, or you don't want to stalk them. So you could, I think if you want to have meaningful outreach, you could pick up a conversation you had with them if there was a particular topic. If you noticed something about the company, maybe they had a press release, or maybe a new product, something that you noticed that's relevant, you could send a quick note and say, hey, I read blank, or I heard XYZ exec left, or just demonstrating that you're paying attention to the company. And and then be patient. I'm a big fan of old school telephones, but I understand people don't do that anymore, or we certainly are not supposed to leave voicemails. But if you have that established contact, get on the phone. And the reason I say this, I have a massive Slack inbox. I have a massive email inbox, and I can't get to most of it until later. But if someone calls me and I'm not in a meeting, I pick up the phone. So if you have that kind of connection, and if you have their phone number, I would give them a call.
No, I love that.
Yeah. We're used to kind of text and emails at this point, but phone calls you don't want to keep calling, but definitely just follow up with a phone call and an email. The other thing, Ben, I would mention, just first things first, is make sure that that recruiter is still at the company, because a lot of recruiters have been laid off. So the person may not be there anymore. If that happens, then I would try to find somebody, whether it's second in command or their manager, just to escalate and see if, just say, hey, I haven't heard back from this recruiter. Looks like this person's gone. I would love to follow up on the conversation about this current opening. Or you can also look for the hiring manager and just, mention the recruiter's name and say, I talked to this person at the expo and they said to follow up on this specific role, and I wanted to follow up with you directly because this recruiter may not be there, or just maybe the recruiter is on vacation. Sometimes I say, oh, they've been on a 2-week vacation, so I'm following up.
Yeah, it happens. People, recruiters are people too, right? And they are also concerned. Many of them are also concerned about, thinning down or rifts, and it's a high probability that their company may be thinking about, or if not having done that already, is thinning out their recruiting team. So, just to add to that too, if there's a way, like Heike was mentioning, that if you can add value to a piece of correspondence, and it could be something as simple as, I found this super relevant article to what we were talking about the other day, or just pointing something out that would be of value to the recruiter, would go a long way, right? Because most folks are just pinging them to inquire, oh, what's the update? What's the update? But yeah, so just something to think about.
We have a question. Yeah,
go
we
ahead,
had
Michelle.
a question from Troy. I want to make sure we didn't skip over that, because I know Troy had a question a little bit above. So Troy mentioned that I have a pretty resume to the eye, but I'm told that it isn't optimized for ATS. How would this change how an internal recruiter would see me on their end? So Heike, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, great question. I'm not sure I have a really good answer for it, because my world is mostly executive hiring, where we work much less with resumes and we don't post roles, and so nothing goes through an algorithm of sorts, right? It's a human person reaching out to someone and then looking at their resume or LinkedIn. So it doesn't get run through some AI process, if you will. So I'm not sure I'm the greatest help with that. However, I would think that companies like LinkedIn probably have some tips and tricks on how to do that. I wonder if ChatGPT could help with that. It seems to be helping with a lot of things, right? So if you put your I've heard of companies, for instance, if you could put your resume into ChatGPT and say, even, I would try that. I'm curious, right? To say, optimize for LinkedIn or something like that, and see what it comes up with. Because it's really good at aggregating, and it's really good at words, right? It's a language model. So you might try that and fine tune.
And there's a lot of great content out there on YouTube about people playing with generative AI to manipulate or to massage resumes for a given job description. And so I would definitely look into that and how you can play with that. I mean, there's sequences you can run through where you're uploading your resume and then you're uploading a job description, and you can ask the thing, optimize my resume for this job description, right? And it's not always perfect, but it gives you a starting point, right? And so, but going back to your question, Troy, in terms of sort of formatting, just really quickly, I would avoid columns. I would avoid tables that can throw ATS systems off, because their ATS systems are parsing the content into their fields. They're trying to do that as intelligently as possible. And when you introduce tables and columns in your doc, it kind of throws things off. Also, I would use PDFs, avoid Word documents. Just a quick sort of feedback there.
And Troy, you can look up these softwares. There are software out there that will, like Eric mentioned, just take the job description and then rate your resume in terms of keyword optimizations, so that way it'll help you figure out what keywords need to be put in there. So hopefully that helps. I know there are tools out there that you can search.
And not all ATS systems are using AI to sort of stack rank your resume against a competitor or the other person in the funnel. Not all of them are doing that. There's some that do that. And anyway, there's still a lot of room for a human being to look at your resume on the back end.
And that's a perfect question for Erica's question.
What's Erica's question?
What is your opinion about AI helping enhance resume and or cover letters? So we can talk about that.
Heike, you're probably not seeing that too much, as you mentioned, right? In terms of, because at the executive level, it's a higher touch, right? Whereas, maybe mid-level or even entry level, because it's high volume, sometimes you won't even have a human being looking at your resume. Whereas on the executive side, it's just lower volume, so there's higher touch. The chances of a recruiter looking at your resume is higher, right? But AI is out there. There's a lot of tools, Erica, to help enhance your resume. I would say, actually, I'm curious on your end, Heike, about cover letters. We work less with executives, but we have. You're almost exclusively. You're exclusively with executives. What are your thoughts on cover letters? Are you getting those from either applicants or people that you're recruiting?
They're not the traditional cover letter anymore, but they could be an email typically. I'm a big fan. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm old fashioned, but I also like simplicity and I like basic things and I like things that work. And I love a cover note. I love a note from someone who just puts into 2 sentences why they're even reaching out. And I'll give you an example similar with LinkedIn. We all get so many LinkedIn requests for connection. And unless I know someone, I do accept a lot of them, but I really want to accept only the ones that send even just one sentence that explains why they're reaching out to me. So, because it also shows some effort. You're not just blasting the universe. You're actually thinking, you're pausing for a minute and you're putting some thought behind why do I want to connect with this recruiter or this person? And you just put one sentence together, makes you more human, makes you more individual, makes you more thoughtful, frankly, and it makes you look more interested in the relationship, in the connection, as in just here's my resume, figure it out if it's a good fit or not. So I'm a big fan of it. It doesn't have to be a long thing, but I would recommend you do it. I think it does help to stand out because a lot of people don't do it.
And the value in that cover letter or cover note, if you will, or cover email is really to answer the question of why are you reaching out? What is providing some context? Is that what?
Yeah, 100%. It's like you put some thought into it. You're more strategic about it, right? You have a why. And while we're on this note, and I don't know if this is going to come up or if it's interesting to people, I'm also still a big fan of a thank you note. And I'm always surprised how few people are doing that.
Oh yeah.
And again, It doesn't have to be a long thing, but that's what people note. And, even, senior executives in my company, even if it's for a non-exec role, someone sends them a note afterwards, they will forward it on to you and say like, nice touch. So do that every single time. Not too long. Don't write a whole summary, but just like one line. Thank you for your time. Again, you're showing up as someone who's strategic, someone who's interested in relationships, and somebody who is just thoughtful.
Heike, you'd recommend an email note or a handwritten note?
Oh, I love a handwritten note. But no, that's what I've done now. If you like that sort of thing, and if you have nice handwriting, mine is horrible these days, so I don't do it anymore because nobody can read them. But no, it doesn't have to be handwritten, but email is okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one way to stand out because nobody's sending handwritten
Seriously.
notes.
Nope. And I would add to that, in terms of just, customizing your outreach. So whether it's your first outreach to the recruiter or hiring manager or thank you note, I was going to say, or even a cover letter, a cover note, make it customized, but I would ask questions or I would provide something of value. I wouldn't just say, hey, here's my resume. What do you think? As Heike was saying, like, you don't want to put the onus on that recruiter to figure out if you're a fit. It's, hey, here's all the reasons why I'm a fit. 1, 2, 3, make it easy for them. And I'm really interested in Box or whatever XYZ company because of this I saw in the news. and really state it specifically why. We see too many people are using standard templates, and I glaze over templates. LinkedIn also has standard templates to reach out to hiring managers. And when I start to see, oh, I'm so interested in this title, and they'll literally just drop in a bunch of like the title, the job they applied for, and then this is their title, I delete those. So anything that's templatized, even if you're reaching out to a recruiter, they're going to just dismiss it. Cover letters, if they're templatized, I don't read them. So again, back to what Heike is saying, if it's customized, I will certainly take a look at it and I will read it. And especially if it's customized, I will take note of it. So hopefully that helps. I know we have a lot of questions here, and Eric, there are 2 questions I think on LinkedIn Live, so I wanted to make sure we didn't skip over those. So Avery had, well, this might be towards the application side. How do I stand out from hundreds of applicants if by sending customized email to the recruiters / hiring managers, what type of messages will capture their attention without sounding cliche or manipulative or generic? Thank you. So I don't know if I answered some of that, but thoughts, Heike, Eric, if there's anything additional you guys want to add to that?
I understand it's so tricky, right? We're one of many and everybody is busy on both ends. So I would, again, pivot and it's not necessarily a mind shift, but if you have time and if you're in an active job search, balance your investment of time, right? Yes, respond to postings and apply, but spend equal amount of time connecting with people. Maybe you had a recruiter in the past who you really liked. It could be at a company, it could be at a recruiting firm, but there's hopefully one person for all of you where you felt like they understood you. Maybe it's a few years back, but they got you. You liked the way they worked, and go talk to them and ask them for advice. Or if you have a former manager who you really liked, like someone who invested in your career development in the past and knows you pretty well, reach out to them and ask them for advice, right? Someone asked about mentoring. So that's how you start building mentorship opportunities. Like, lean into your network that you already have. And it could be in unexpected places. I wasn't joking earlier with the neighbor, right? There might be someone who is literally your neighbor, or who's someone you share a hobby with, who works at a company you're interested in. So invest some time in those networking opportunities as opposed to, oh, I'm going to send out 50 more applications.
Yeah, there's just you never know where you can meet somebody that knows somebody and can put you in touch with the right person. You never know. Yeah, I live in Utah here, and I ski quite regularly at one of the most prestigious ski resorts here. There's just all kinds of people that you meet on the lifts. It's insane. And so just strike up conversation where you can, get to know your neighbors, and it's a form of networking and just getting to know people,
I had a thought that escaped, but we were talking about, I know Ben had a question about, mentors. So I heard about mentors before. Is there a way to find mentors?
Yeah, piggybacking on to what I just said. So it takes time, right? And it takes effort, and you just have to start with one conversation at a time. So there are some official programs. They're often in companies. We here at Box, for instance, we have peer mentorship programs too, which is a really wonderful thing where peers get matched. You can apply as a mentor and you can apply as a mentee, and then colleagues get matched. So many companies have programs like this. There is probably free mentorship opportunities through some not-for-profit work that I could certainly look into. I just don't know that off the top of my head. That probably exists. There are oftentimes you can find it in industry groups. So for instance, I'm in talent acquisition. So I'm a member of several industry groups, round tables, collectives, like small groups of people who do the same thing. That is where a lot of mentoring comes comes to life, right? In sort of peer learning and peer networking. So depending on what you all do, if you're in finance, and you live in San Francisco, there's probably a group of finance professionals in San Francisco, and I don't know, they meet once a month at a cafe or something. So if you go to those events, you'll start building a network, and there might be someone could be a mentor to you. So that's you don't just say, I'm looking for a mentor. Where are they? It takes a little time, right? And they can also show up in unexpected places, like Eric said.
Yeah. Go ahead, Michelle.
Before I lose my thought, this is what I was going to mention. So this will answer your question, Avery, and Ben as well. And so one thing to get on top of hiring managers and recruiters, just kind of to get on top of or get in front of the line, is really engaging with their content too. If they're on LinkedIn and they are active, I mean, they've got to be on LinkedIn, right? As a recruiter for the most part. I would interact with their content. That has, and just to answer your question, Ben, that's how I found one of my mentors was I would just interact, I would interact with them. So I found somebody that I really was a woman CEO, and she built a successful company to I think it was like 100 million plus. And so for me, it was really, she was a really interesting person. So I followed her. And so she posts pretty much daily. And she had a kind of a giveaway to do a coaching session for women that were also entrepreneurs. And so I won it. I won that because I was really active with her content, and I've also connected with her. I wrote a really customized message, and I was really specific about what I was looking for. And so if you are really laser focused, you're engaging, you're thoughtful in your approach, then you get onto the radar. And that's how you open up doors for mentors, because mentors want to mentor mentees that are committed and interested in their career growth. So anything that you can put yourself up for, just showcasing that really helps. And hopefully that, Avery, that helps you with just, it's a step forward in terms of getting yourself out there and to the top of the list versus other candidates that may not be interacting with hiring managers' content.
So I have a question, Heike, and I think this has come up in different forms before outside of today's conversation. But, let's say I'm a candidate and, I'm working with a recruiter, an internal recruiter at a given company that I'm interested in, and I start to become, I'm in the process now. What would you recommend is the best way to partner with that recruiter, and to what extent does this recruiter have an influence on my candidacy? Oh, Heike, I think you might be muted. There you go. Yeah, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I mean, at a high level, it depends on the company and how their recruiting is structured, right? And how much ownership the recruiter or talent partner has in the decision making. And that can really literally vary from company to company. But in a well-run company, typically a recruiter or talent partner would lead the search, meaning they would advise. They have like one, it's almost like you need three legs, right? Just you think about the role of the recruiter. Someone asked that earlier. You almost have one foot in the camp of the business, of the hiring manager, because you want to find the best hire for them. You really understand their business. You're working with them to fill this open role. And then your other foot is in the camp of the candidate, because you want to make sure they have an amazing experience. You want to make sure they have everything they need. They feel safe. They feel taken care of. They feel informed, all of those things. And then you need a third foot, because you have a foot in the camp of the business, where you're also making the best decision for the company or for the business as a whole. So back to the candidate question, what you can do as a candidate is be open, trust your talent partner. Hopefully you've established a connection and a rapport where you feel like you have the psychological safety, you can trust them. So the more open you are about, I don't want to come in more than 2 days a week into an office, or here's what I need to make in terms of compensation. Here's what mix I need base or whatever. Here is what really happened at this company. Here's why I'm motivated to change. I'm also talking to other companies, right? The more transparent you can be, the more you're going to get back from your recruiter, right? Because then you have a trusted relationship, then they're going to give you insights into how long it's going to take, maybe give you more targeted feedback of why you're moving forward or maybe why you're not moving forward. So really use that as a trusted relationship. Be responsive, right? If they ask you, hey, are you available next week to meet blank? Respond within 24 hours, so that you work hand in hand with them and you have this, very close and trusted relationship. And then that person, right, if you don't get the job or you don't take the job, then that becomes one of those recruiter connections or mentors who you can then foster a relationship with over time.
And what would you say are some of the common mistakes? Just sort of an extension to that question. What do you see? What would you say are the most common mistakes that you've seen candidates make in working with an internal recruiter?
Yeah, I mean, the flip side of what I just said, for instance, not being transparent. So
Okay.
it does occasionally happen to us. We talk to someone and go through the process. It takes several months at the executive level, and everybody gets excited about a person. And, we're in the final stages, and they said, oh, by the way, I'm also, talking to 3 other companies, and I have an offer on the table. So that's just an example where you then get caught off guard, and it changes the dynamic, right? And it changes the relationship, and it'll change the willingness of the recruiter to then go to bat for you. If they then get the sense like, oh, what else are you not telling me?
Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily the fact that they're interviewing with other companies. It's the fact that they've obscured the information till the very end.
Yeah. Oh, they should be. I mean, I would expect anybody should be in this market, talk to as many companies as they can, right? That's sort of obvious. But to not talk about it or not be transparent about it, I think that impacts the relationship.
And that's one of the big challenges that I see with candidates is they don't know what should I share with the recruiter, what should I not? Am I sharing too much? Does this put me at a disadvantage? And how are they using this information? Are they going to use it against me? Is it going to come around and bite me? And so that's one of the things that, they just, a lot of candidates just don't know, why are they asking me about this? Or, how much should I share? And so, I sort of advocate too of like, hey, I'm a partner with you because I want to make sure it's the right fit on both ends, right? And so the more I know, the more we can work together and ensure that it's truly the right fit for you and for the company. I mean, everybody stands to gain if it's the right fit, and everyone stands to lose if it's not the right fit, right? And so we're partners in trying to sort of truth seek there, right? So that's how that's sort of the advice that I give to candidates is like just try to be transparent and sort of open.
And I appreciate when candidates are open, because if they start off being open, it's easier for me to go to bat for them, knowing where they stand on the opportunity. And sometimes they'll be truthful and say, I have another opportunity that's number one for me. And I still respect that. I still respect that. And I'll still work with them on the opportunity, even if it's number two. And the ones that are transparent, I tend to be transparent in telling them, hey, this is the reason why you are moving forward, and there's only 2 other candidates. And the edge that you'll get is if you do these X, Y, Z. So if candidates ask me and they are very interested and they're one of the top candidates, I will give them kind of the top secret information that other candidates do not get. So the better relationship that you build with your recruiter, the better edge you will have in being kind of the first runner-up. I know we have to wrap up. I just I want to make sure we did have another question from Miley or Miley. She did ask about, so I'll read the question. Do hiring managers / recruiters actually review resumes submitted through a general mailbox for potential candidates? I've seen this scenario several times where they say, we're not hiring right now, but send us your resume and we'll see if you might be a good fit in the future. Please send your resume to hr@company.com. So Heike, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, I'm not the best person to answer this, unfortunately, because again, we're not posting anything. And I can speak for our core recruiting team where we are posting roles. And while it does go to a generalized inbox, but then there are live people who are monitoring those. So again, it comes back to what kind of company are you looking at, and how are they organized? So I don't think there's a general answer for that. Just the recognition. If you can find a different way to get in touch with someone at the company, explore that, because just to give you an idea, any posting currently probably gets several hundreds of applications, and it is very easy for one, even a wonderful one, to just get lost and missed because recruiting teams are under-resourced. So in most cases, the teams do not get through all the 300 resumes. They look at the first 10 or so, and if great candidates are in it, that's where it ends. And I think that's just a reality. So if you can you get away from the generic as much as you can and find another personal route, that I would recommend that.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, we're I guess last call for any questions.
Ryan had another question, so I just saw it. But his question is, what is your opinion on using as many keywords as many times as possible to pass ATS system by hitting all the keywords that a human recruiter might see as unnecessary wording? Is that bad? Will it hurt your chances of moving forward to be interviewed?
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of folks think that this is a sort of the primary game that they have to play in terms of getting past an ATS system. There's some optimization you can do, but I wouldn't focus too much effort there. Really I would focus the effort on getting your story straight, focused, making sure that you have sort of a focused, what I call a candidate market fit statement, what you're looking for, and sharing that with the people in your network so they can be your eyes and ears. If you're too broad in what you're looking for, nobody knows what you're looking for, and it's hard for them to help you, whether they're a recruiter or a friend or whatnot. So you have to be hyper focused, and it may seem counterintuitive that if you're too focused, you're sort of narrowing your prospects. But in fact, you're becoming you're enabling the people that are out there to help you remember what you're looking for, and you're also you're saving yourself from spending times on sort of the maybes, right? You're becoming hyper focused. So I would spend more time on that, and the games that you can play with an ATS system. That's not going to make or break. I think what will make or break is your ability to network and really to be your own advocate and your own recruiter on your own behalf. So hopefully that helps, Ryan. I spent a little bit of time on the ATS thing and optimizing your keywords, but I wouldn't spend too much time there.
Yeah, I would add on that. Heike, you mentioned that recruiters get so many applicants for a rec. I see sometimes 800 to 1,000 plus candidates. So even if you got through the ATS system along with other candidates, that might be 100 or 200, even a couple hundred candidates that have applied as well. What's going to get you to the top of the list is really getting in front of those recruiters. And that's what we talked about with customizing and being intentional about your messaging. And I know sometimes you're not going to get a response. Every customized message or email is not going to be read by a recruiter or received with a response, but that's how you're going to get in front of both the recruiters or the hiring managers. And I think your chances are higher that way than to apply it through the front door. So hopefully that helps. But Heike, I appreciate your time here and for joining us. And hopefully I'm appreciative also of all the audience members that have joined us, because you guys have really had a lot of questions. I think we ended up just answering questions. We had a list of questions. So we really appreciate your participation and just being really engaged. So I hope that this has been really helpful for you. Just as a reminder, we are recording this, so this will be on LinkedIn Live, and afterwards it'll be on the same link. So if you want to review this, I believe we're on Spotify as well, Eric.
We'll post it on Spotify as well, yeah.
Okay. And then for those who need help, personal help, meaning with resume review or coaching, interview coaching as well, we do that as well at Jump Search. So you can contact Eric or me about that. And we'd be happy to help you.
And thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And please feel free to reach out to me also on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to help in any way.
Thank you so much, Heike. We appreciate you. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, and follow us on LinkedIn and connect with us on LinkedIn as well. Talk to you soon.
Take care.
Bye.